In 2020, Christian Lane dived near the Great Barrier Reef and photographed the manta ray. When they went pink in some photos, Lane thought his camera was out of order. The truth surfaced after he posted pictures on social networks. Faulty pictures showed the same person. Biologists have known this male since 2015, and he was really pink. He was nicknamed Inspector Clouseau in honor of the eccentric investigator from the movie Pink Panther. Despite its bright skin, Clouseau was spotted less than 10 times. A skin sample put to bed the theory that the shade of manta came from food with red pigment or skin infection. Tests showed that it was most likely a genetic mutation, possibly erythrism. This condition gives the animals a boost of red pigment. Clouseau is 3.3 meters (11 feet) long. This is a feat of survival in itself, given that manta are black and white to avoid predators and pursue prey. When the location of the wind farm was chosen on the seashore near California, a problem arose. There were more than 5,200 holes on the seabed, known to the maritime community for many years, thanks ship's radar. The dents were large but not quite a problem. Instead, a nervous suspicion arose that they were formed by underground gas. In 2019, robots dived into the ocean to search for methane. The investigation did not find any gas. If methane was behind the so-called smallpox, the last activity was about 50,000 years ago. The robots also saw something so far not seen by each ship's sonar, an additional 15,000 holes. The owls were not smallpox children. In addition to being much smaller and younger, they also had steeper flanks and sand tails that turned in the same direction. One theory pointed to fish living inside objects located at the bottom of the ocean. Creatures raise the dust that carries away the current. This immerses the element deeper and forms a hole. In some of the recently discovered trash pits, fish lived. But that didn't explain why most of them were empty. When a research vessel cruised along the coast of South Africa, it was faced with something that had never been seen before with humpback whales. When these mammals come together, they rarely number more than 4 whales. In this case, water was seething with the participation of 200 whales in an area the size of a football field. The timing was also chosen incorrectly. In winter, hunchbacks visit South Africa to hunt plankton and shrimp. But this party arrived in the spring. And this was not a one-time deal. The first gathering took place in 2011. Then in 2014 and 2015. The animals feasted, which meant that they were attracted by the flowering of prey. Their migration patterns may change, or this is normal behavior. If the latter is true, then the clusters probably disappeared after hunters killed 90% of the species. Their population is now stable. It's hard to say which theory explains tightly packed clusters. About 18,000 years ago, a puppy died in Siberia. The body turned out to be permafrost and lay untouched until 2018, when it was found near the Indigirka River in Russia. The ice grave preserved the puppy in its original form. The mummy still had eyelashes, hair, a mustache, nails and paw pads. The jaws were also covered with milk teeth, which suggests that the puppy never saw his 8th week of life. The resemblance to the wolf was obvious. However, about 40,000 years ago, wolves and dogs dispersed in different directions. This meant that the puppy could also be a dog or a transitional dog between 2 species. The secret is a sticky gate. Conventional methods, including genetic tests, could only determine that the puppy was a male. There was nothing definite about which side of the fence this boy belonged to. There was a bearded lady living in Oklahoma City Zoo. Called Bridget, the 18-year-old lioness suddenly grew a mane-like frill. Hair blossomed under her chin, and not a full hairstyle, like a man. Captive Bridget looked normal for most of her life. Her sister Tia, who was born in the same litter, also remained hairless while Bridget sprouted a beard from March to November 2017. One hairy woman in South Africa gave me an answer. She had ovarian deformity, which released the male hormone testosterone. This possibility was ruled out after blood tests showed that the sisters had the same testosterone level. However, Bridget had more adrenal hormones and androstenedione. The latter encourages masculine facial features. This discovery led experts to suggest that one of her adrenal glands probably had a harmless tumor that produced androstenedione. Tasmanian devils are marsupials on the brink. One disease killed 85% of the species. The so-called diabolical tumor of the face DFTD. An infectious cancer that jumps between the devils when they fight. Rapid infections drove the animals to extinction. Western pencil pine devils rode in. This group lives in northwestern Tasmania and has maintained steady growth in its population. Fewer individuals get infected with DFTD and those with tumors live longer than they should. What makes them different is the key to saving the species. Discovering that they are genetically diverse has brought hope. Genes are a huge problem with the devils. Their diversity is so small that they all have the same histocompatibility complex MHC genes as tumors. Perhaps that is why their immune system cannot recognize cancer as a disease. Logically speaking, the devils have a better chance if some of them have genes that are not too similar to the disease. Like a pencil patch. Tests brought bad news. Yes. Their genes are less like tumors. No, this did not diminish their chances of concluding a DPTR. However discouraging it may be, it also deepens the mystery of why they live better than the rest. At birth, a giant panda cub is 900 times smaller than its mother. Researchers wanted to know why, but it wasn't as simple as putting a panda cub on the scales. In captivity, newborns are small and well protected by mothers. A leading theory has suggested that the cubs were tiny due to the evolutionary remnant. Like all types of bears, pandas reduce their pregnancies to avoid pregnancy during hibernation. But while modern pandas no longer sleep, this explains why they are only 4 weeks pregnant. Perhaps it was just enough time for the little cubs to fully develop. The opportunity to study newborn pandas finally came when a litter was born in Washington, D.C., but died the same day. They were scanned and compared with other newborn species of bears and animals. The rest had strong skeletons, as one would expect from a completed pregnancy. But the bones of pandas born in the usual 4 weeks were so underdeveloped that they could be compared with a 7-month-old human fetus. This shattered the theory. Panda's pregnancy is not a short, full-fledged event. For unknown reasons, they are more like ovens that ring before bread is ready. In 2017, a shocking attack occurred on a beach in Australia. Sam Kanizai was rushed to the hospital after a 16-year-old teenager left a bloody mess in the water. He told the doctors that he was standing at sea, but no pain warned him that his ankles were bleeding badly. The main suspect was sea lice. Tiny crustaceans are parasites, and large numbers can seriously damage fish. But they only give people a mild rash. Sam's father found something else. Using meat and nets, he trawled the place where his son was injured and caught fleas. Unlike sea lice, they are not crustaceans and several species eat only plants. Even those who love blood do not parasitize. Experts cannot decide which of them is to blame, what attracted them, or why the victim bleeds so badly. But a similar incident occurred 2 years earlier on the same beach. Father and son came out of the water only to understand that they were bleeding. They noticed something like tadpoles, since some species look that way. This suggests that the parasitic sea lice were behind both attacks. A strange scene takes place in West Africa. Chimpanzees slowly approach the tree, shout loudly, and then throw a stone. Sometimes even two. And then they leave. No one knows why they do this, except that this is probably not for laughs. Chimpanzees love spontaneous games, and throwing stones has a distinct ritual sensation. Only some types of trees are pelted with skins, and among them individual trees are so heavily stoned that stones accumulate around the base. Researchers have wondered whether the qualities of chimpanzee wood make happy. Maybe it made the right sounds for bush telegrams, a kind of musical instrument. There was only one way to find out. The team headed into the forest, found pockmarked trees, and turned on the recorder. Then they went crazy and started throwing stones. The software combed through the blows and found that the theory of communication was something similar. To walk a good distance, the sounds must be low and constant. And indeed, the trees were buzzing very loudly. The frequencies were amplified by a large bass and extended by a tree. But one throw, or two, is hardly worth sending a message. The deep chuck of a chimpanzee in advance also does the same thing at first. So why even send a letter with pebbles? Good question. But for now, the two-stage ritual remains a mystery.